Good morning. Welcome to Bringing a Brand Promise to Life, our final innovation event, and actually final event of 2020 for Chicagoland Food and Beverage Network. My name is Alan Reed, and I'm the Executive Director of the Chicagoland Food and Beverage Network, and I welcome you all. This is our, are you ready, 67th event in 2020. Most of those have been hosted virtually, given the incredible circumstances we're all living through. We are so excited with the huge amount of support. We just totaled up our numbers today, and nearly 4,500 people, different people, have tuned in to our events during the year. So we welcome you. So glad you're here. So glad you're keeping the industry together and connected. And again, our last virtual event of the year, it's perfect that you're here. Make sure you grab some coffee. Make yourself comfortable. And again, I'll have just our opening comments will be done in just a moment, and we'll get started with really an unbelievable set of panels and stuff. Also, get your make sure your sample boxes, your tasting box is somewhere near, because we'll get to that in about 45 minutes. So great stuff coming. For those of you who are less familiar with the Chicagoland Food and Beverage Network, we are an almost 4-year-old mission-driven industry organization. Our job is to bring together the incredible food and beverage industry of the greater Chicagoland area to do 3 important things: grow the industry, grow the local economy, and create jobs. Those things are important every single day, but especially important in the midst of and in the aftermath of the global pandemic we are living through. And we know our industry loves to give back to Chicagoland. So we also launched a new organization this year called Bigger Table. Bigger Table brings together that same food and beverage industry to address really persistent issues that challenge Chicagoland, and especially some of our most vulnerable communities. We address hunger, unemployment, inclusive economic development, and a host of other things. There's some exciting stuff happening there. Hopefully you've been following along and hearing me, and you're tired of hearing me talk about that. But great stuff happening on both fronts. We love to get social. So please, the conversation starts here, and we love to bring it over into our social media channels as well. We love to see you in LinkedIn and Twitter especially, and Facebook and Instagram are amazing as well. So hashtag things, get social. We start the conversation here and continue it in social media beyond that. We'll also maybe feature some of the best parts of this event in some in case you missed it content coming up between now and the end of the year. So finally, we get to start with today's first panel, which again, we have saved the absolute best for last this year. Just some heavy hitters in the food and beverage industry here in Chicagoland, and so excited to talk with these incredibly impressive, just an impressive panel. And they just all happen to be fantastic women, which we always love to represent. And today we're representing even more than usual. So happy to welcome all of you.
Morning.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. Good morning.
So actually, as we get started, let's just go ahead and start with introductions. I am going to ask you to mute if you're not speaking. I'm hearing just a tiny bit of feedback through my loud voice that's causing those problems. Just making sure that we can hear all of you. Norma, let's start with you. Will you just sort of introduce yourself, your role, your company, and the perspective you're bringing to today's conversation?
Sure. I'm Anna Farrel. I am a Vice President of Global Marketing in the Human Nutrition part of ADM's business, with a focus on alternative proteins and wholesome ingredients. At ADM, we are very much connected with all players within the industry, all the way from producers and growers to food and beverage manufacturers on a day-to-day basis. We work with technical teams quite a bit, as well as marketing, collaborating and unlocking trends and consumer opportunities to drive innovation together. So very excited to be here. I would say lots of different perspectives to bring. I will likely focus on innovation in the midst of unprecedented times that we're all living, and also definitely touch on the importance of that supply chain transparency, traceability, and sustainability as a rising priority for all of us in the industry. Happy to be here.
Outstanding. Thanks so much, Anna. Susan, will you introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely. So thank you, Alan, for having me. And it's so great to be here with Rochelle, Anna, and well. So I'm Susan. I've been at Kellogg for over 3 years now, and I lead experience planning. And I always love the question of what is experience planning? So it's a little bit of a newer practice at Kellogg's, and what I love about it is we basically bring meaningful and memorable experiences. So I oversee the entire Kellogg's portfolio, and for all our brands, whether it be a Cheez-It, to a Frosted Flakes, to a Pachi, obviously have all their own nuances, but how do we bring that true experience to life as far as with media, well-being, philanthropy, social content, shopper coupons, it all kind of sits within my team, and we bring that true brand promise to life. So look forward to kind of sharing some of the data and especially in this new environment. So thanks so much for having me. Alan, I think you're on mute.
Alan, I don't think we can hear you.
Such a good job of telling you to mute that I forgot to unmute myself. We having just a little trouble with feedback, so would you do me a favor and just mute when you're not speaking, and we'll and that'll make it a little easier for everyone to hear. And again, I'll try to remember to unmute myself and use it as well. Rochelle, will you introduce yourself next, please?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Rochelle Radcliffe with KeHE. I'm so honored to be here with you all today to participate in this panel. A little bit about my background. I've been with KeHE for just over 10 years now in various roles, including pricing and analytics, as well as category management. My current role in brand development is really focused on KeHE's initiatives surrounding foraging for innovation, as well as supporting the success of our new supplier partners. So one really exciting way we're doing this is earlier this year, we launched our Emerging Big Brands program called KeHE Elevate. And I've had the privilege of being very involved with the program. The program supports a brand's growth at KeHE by offering mentorship by our category management team, which is our group of category experts at KeHE. And it also offers high touch and high visibility and connects brands with our sales team and our retail partners. So very excited, to really be so involved with such a great program. And, really, helping brands share their story and innovation is what we do as a company, and it's what we're passionate about. So I'm really happy to be here today to share a distributor perspective with you all.
Thanks so much, Rochelle. And Michelle, will you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rochelle Radcliffe. It's one exciting way to end the year. Ellen, congrats on the 67 events. That is amazing, especially given this year and how you've had to pivot. I'm the VP of Marketing for Simple Mills. Simple Mills is a 7-year-old brand. We're based here in Chicago. We're a natural organic portfolio brand, which means we have multiple product lines. So we have crackers and cookies and baking mixes and frostings and bars. And all of our products deliver to the consumer 3 key promises. And the first is that we will use only natural, clean, whole foods in our products. So right on the front of our pack, you'll see only whole foods, nothing artificial ever. Key promise of ours. The second is that we'll also deliver nutrient density. So all of our products use nutrient dense bases like nut flours, seed flours, veggie flours in it instead of, your kind of nutrient void flours or industrialized wheat. And then the third is that they're delicious. so you can deliver on your health and wellness needs, but also not compromise, because at the end of the day, it's food, and food, it has to be enjoyed. And so we're providing the consumer with what they're really demanding, which is clean, simple, nutrient-dense food that tastes great. And we have been growing. Our growth has been kind of a vertical trajectory, which is amazing. And we've become the #1 natural baking mix brand, the #1 natural cracker brand, and the #3 natural cookie brand in our 7 short years, which is really exciting. And so today I'll give I'll be able to provide the perspective of a high growth brand in this health and wellness space, which has become increasingly important for consumers during 2020.
Terrific. Welcome and congratulations on Simple Mills' great success. So let's dig in. Again, such an impressive panel and such great perspectives. Really want to make sure we hear from all of you because there's so much to learn. So let's just start with sort of the big question. So how is bringing a brand promise to life different in 2020? Feels like everything is different, but how has it been different for each of you? Susan, let's start with you.
Sure. No, I think it's always a question like what hasn't changed, right? I think that's more what it's like. But I love being a part of this panel because my perspective is coming from a very established brands and in a wide base of brands. I'd love to hear kind of how we're doing in comparison to some of these newer up and coming brands. I think for us, because we're coming from an established space, is we really thought it was like 2 key principles of our approach for this year, and one is we had to sharpen our brand value proposition. So, it's not just about lower cost or how can we get, it's about giving more to the consumer because over the course of COVID, people were looking for brands that they could trust, they could fill their pantry with, they can, make sure that the nutrients are there. And so that actually worked out very well in our favor, but we wanted to make sure that we continue to maintain their trust and give them more value. So it was, we still had an ongoing innovation pipeline. We also thought about new ways of how people can experience our brands, whether that be a new occasion. Also, is there new entertainment value with our brands of like, how could you use our brands in a new way? Hey, there's an interesting way, and a Cheez-It is exactly 1 inch square, and you can use them for math problems, while you're at home. So there was just an interesting thought of like, how do we really consider a true value of a brand? And the other piece, and I think probably everyone would echo this, is about, the agility. The speed to action. Things were changing left and right. And again, I'm coming from a massive, very large organization. And I think we've truly experienced about if we're hearing from the consumer, what are those listening and those insights, and how do we quickly pivot? Also, in the way that we came to market was in a very quick, agile way, and we had to reimagine the way we did production and how we got that, creative out into market. So it is really around those kind of 2 key areas is how we focused.
Terrific. Michelle, can you give us a perspective of a smaller brand? How has that been this year?
Yeah, I'm it's very similar and different in many ways, I'm sure. For us, it was really interesting because our brand has always been about wellness, and we've focused very much on the consumer and how do we support her or him in their wellness journey. And I think what 2020 made us kind of step back and realize is that we have a responsibility even broader beyond just our consumer, because in such craziness of 2020, the food industry has really benefited. And so it's been a very emotionally trying time for us, because on one hand, it's great. Your revenues, your business is booming. And on the second hand, you feel this immense responsibility in the kind of greater good, if you will, because you see many people out of work, etc. And so for us, our brand promise kind of shifted to a degree, still very much focused on the consumer, but also taking a wider lens and saying, how do we support the industry at large, specifically this natural organic industry? And so, early days in the pandemic, we were sitting at home and everything, all of us were watching these horrific news reports about how natural organic farmers could not get their produce couldn't sell their produce essentially because all of the retailers or restaurants had kind of shuttered up and closed doors. And so you just saw them plowing over this field of food when in reality, there's people starving and they don't have, they're not starving, but I'm very food insecure and needing to get that food. So we kind of stepped back and said, how can we as a brand help in this instance? And so we, reached out to Alan, you and your team, and it was great because you put us in contact with, 3 local companies here that produce organic produce boxes. So we have a really large social following, and so we could use that social following to do 2 things. One was to drive awareness of these local businesses and their offering. And then by doing so, we could ensure that there is a market for these farmers and keep them in business for years to come, hopefully. And then also serve our consumers, because our consumers at the same time were fearful of going into the store, or they weren't, and wanting food deliveries, and they weren't finding the kind of produce and food that they needed. So it was really a win-win, but it was a great way to kind of step back and think, how can we serve our consumers and at the same time support the industry?
Terrific. Thank you for that. I'm so glad that we could refer you to folks who you could end up helping. Just makes the world a better place. Anna, tell us about how ADM is changing, bringing the promise to life.
Yes, and it's actually great that you posed the question to Susan and Michelle first, because we actually have been so connected with, the large food companies, but also the startup companies, the up and coming brands that are driving innovation in the market. And so what I would say is, there are 3 areas probably where things were definitely different this year. I think the first one, early in the pandemic, it was really all about, supply chain safety, food safety, ensuring that we could support and sustain the supply to the industry. We've seen tremendous momentum and demand on retail, which obviously posed some challenges in the need to flex to better support customers like Susan's company and others. And at the same time, ensuring that we were very much able to meet the demands for wholesome ingredients, for health-forward solutions, probiotics, botanical extracts, all of these ingredients that are very much sought after from a health and wellness perspective, as companies started to shift and to drive that higher value that Susan was alluding to. Another great area of shift and evolution, I would say, has been collaboration in general. We've all embraced virtual ways of working, and I have to say at ADM, that has been amazing transformation as we now put our technical teams from all over the globe behind innovation challenges or opportunities. We do brain sessions. I feel like we're much closer in many ways when it comes to collaborating and tapping into the amazing, competencies that we have across the company, marketing, sales, coming together to partner with customers and drive new opportunities. And then finally, probably the most emblematic example has been the creation of new capabilities for innovating with customers. So this year we launched a capability called InnoSpark, which is all about a virtual open innovation program where we scope and shape a brief together with customers, very much connected with trends and consumer insights, as Michelle was alluding to as well. And then we go through a few stages of internal collaboration and ideation so that we can help customers meet that need for agility that has become so important. So that when we go back and we have an open innovation session, we are tapping into a lot of need states and opportunities to drive growth with customers. And these have been amazing projects because we've been taking them to the finish line and supporting customers to go to market much faster with those solutions. So a lot of great transformation and much powered by technology and new resources that we now have.
I love it. It does seem like on our event yesterday, someone mentioned, it's pivot or die. And it does feel like that's, and like maybe that's always been true, but it's especially true in 2020. I love what you're saying, Anna. Just the tools, like, how many of us had used Zoom back in 2019? The tool had always been there, but not sure we were all appreciating just how powerful it could be. And again, we're using Hop-In for this event, which again allows us to connect yet a different way. So much to learn, and really appreciate you leaning in on that. Rochelle, tell us what KeHE has done to help bring brand promises to life this year.
Yeah, what didn't change is really the importance to create a message that appeals to your consumers. So, being, a company that works with many small and emerging brands, what we're really seeing that's appealing to consumers now more than ever before is the emotional type of brand promise, maybe more so than like the more tangible, like price or convenience. So for example, focusing more on the people a brand supports with fair wages or sustainability or philanthropy efforts. I think more of an emotional connection is what consumers are really gravitating towards in the current environment.
Couldn't agree more. And if I can dig just a little bit there, you dealing in sort of the natural channel, and sometimes with some smaller brands, how has that been different for you as well?
Yeah, no, it's been, a lot more, I think hand-holding for our new suppliers and just helping guide them, the supply chain, issues that, Anna mentioned the beginning of the pandemic. So, we really had to help, guide them, and kind of tell them, maybe retailers aren't really looking for innovation right now. There's a lot of changes with the category review schedules and things like that, but just to kind of hang tight and, be prepared because they're going to want innovation again. And you just kind of have to kind of button down and just kind of wait it out. And we're definitely seeing that, retailers are approaching us for innovation now and they're ready, they're thirsty for it. So, just kind of helping, we've never stopped foraging for innovation, but, we're ready as soon as the retailers are.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you. So let's dig in a little further and talk about some of the areas where consumer expectations have changed or are in the midst of changing, and how do these expectations impact brand promises? And wow, there's so much to say here. So we'll sort of start, and I'll ask you all to sort of build from each other. Anna, let's start with you on what you're seeing in changing consumer expectations.
Ellen, I would say that the fastest moving dynamic that we are experiencing really has to do with a much more proactive approach to health management by all of us. Not only going from the more, let's say, the cleaner labels, the recognizable ingredients, a lot of the things that Michelle alluded to, wholesome foods and ingredients and the foods that we are consuming and beverages as well. But I think we are seeing tremendous consumer education. We've been keeping tab on, lots of social listening activities. And it was just incredible to see how the search for immunity enabled foods. What are the superfoods and the different things we should be choosing on our day-to-day to help keep our bodies strong? So we are seeing consumers really gravitating along that value add value proposition spectrum from what you would consider to be, your baseline nutrition all the way to functional nutrition. And so we have definitely experienced a lot of demand for innovation that will likely hit the market in the coming year with solutions and new products that are delivering a lot more to consumers. I think that has been, probably most emblematic change that we've experienced. Think about digestive health, cognitive, mental health, and definitely immunity at the top of the list. And then, of course, not surprisingly, I would say the second area of tremendous momentum and expectation, and Rochelle alluded to this, is the transparency of the supply chain, the idea of provenance, understanding where the foods that we consume are coming from. So you can imagine we've been pretty busy because of all the grower connections that we have fostered over the years, not only in the extensive soy and corn processing, but mostly related to plant proteins and the rise of these new solutions and category innovation. It's been keeping us quite busy there. And also other areas of the portfolio, ancient grains and seeds, and other natural ingredients, colors, flavors. I think a lot of what Michelle alluded to is the kind of momentum that we are experiencing where we sit in the industry.
Thank you. Susan, what are you seeing change in terms of consumers?
Yeah. Again, I'll echo like Anna's perspective too. I mean, for Kellogg, we're certainly focused solely, on the plant-based. 95% of our portfolio is plant-based. We've launched a new plant-based meat called Incognito. So definitely that is a true focus for us. I think if I kind of lean in on maybe a nuanced topic from what Anna said, I think, diversity and inclusion is a huge focus right now, right? When you talk about brand promise and what are we doing, what is that action that we're taking? And so we've been on a journey at Kellogg. I think that's the best thing that we can say, is that it's the need to take action. And we've actually started, even at the beginning of this year in January, February, we created a framework about how are we thinking about diversity and inclusion through kind of three big key pillars: our talent, our go-to-market strategy, and from our industry and partner perspective. And obviously with everything going on through the course of the year, it just accelerated. We now have 10 key racial equity commitments that Kellogg's is committed to, but we're really thinking about in those buckets. So talent is, from an internal perspective, I know we're talking about consumers, but again, if our talent is representative, then our consumers are going to see that, right? So about retention, retaining, promoting, training our talent to ensure that, we have been having a lot of open, transparent conversations about diversity, equity, and inclusion internally, which has been fantastic. I think that's only grown the culture and strengthened that even more. For our go-to-market, so we want to make sure that our work is representative of those audiences in market. And so we're doing quite a bit, making sure our media is delivering to the right audiences. We're partnering with the ANA on a new metric called the Cultural Insight Impact Measure, which actually measures the amount of culture in our advertising and how that's driving sales. And again, it's really because we want to make sure this is first, and foremost. And then third, when I talked about industry and partner leadership, we're talking to all our agency partners. Is the talent on their teams fully, what's their roadmap for diversity and inclusion on the talent that sits on our business? Are we looking for diverse suppliers? So it's really been a full force effort across all those three pillars. But again, that perspective to the consumer, that's why we're doing this work, so that we can, achieve for what they're looking for.
Love it, and I especially love it because Kellogg has been named one of the most diverse companies in America for the past several years. And it is awesome and inspiring to see how you're already being awarded for it and you're raising the bar on it at this critical time. So just kudos to just those amazing efforts. So thank you.
Thank you.
Rochelle, how are you seeing consumer expectations impact your business and how they're changing?
Yeah, so, it's not new, but people buy from people that they like, right? So consumers want to feel like their values align with the companies that they support, and they are doing their research on it. Consumers are choosing to spend their dollars through, purposeful purchases. And I believe that at these times of uncertainty is really when companies and people's true colors come to light. So, we mentioned transparency, but it's so important to be transparent and live out your promise and your values because consumers are watching and they are paying attention. We mentioned immunity, the definition of health and wellness. Our current environment, there's a real fear of illness and, both physical and mental. So there's a surge in habits surrounding food and beverage and supplement choices. So food that incorporates more functionality has really taken off, this year more than ever before. Something that hasn't been mentioned yet was eating at home versus away from home more. And, consumers that they're really experiencing with new cuisines and new cooking techniques. So maybe categories that were maybe more mature in previous years are now surging, more than ever before. It's actually a couple categories that I used to manage in my category management role, but baking supplies and spices and seasonings and international cuisines, those are just completely taking off, and they're just having fun in the kitchen, and they don't want to eat the same thing every single week, and they're cooking 3 meals at home, and it's completely different than ever before. And then lastly, in regards to diversity and inclusion, consumers are asking retailers products that about diversity owned suppliers, women owned. It's the inclusion is very important to them right now, and they want to support those companies. So we've had many retailers reach out to us asking what products we have under diversity suppliers. And so, we're seeing more and more requests come through. And so we're happy to oblige because we have such a great portfolio of those types of companies at KeHE.
Outstanding. Yeah. And actually, I think it's one of the things when we look back in 20 years, like 2020 will be the year so many things changed and so many things started. So if there's a silver lining to this year, it's that some of the things we've been talking about are suddenly getting brought to life because they can, or because there's a moment to sort of pause and bring those things, I'll say, to the forefront. Michelle, tell us about consumer expectations in your world.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that about the silver linings, because I could not agree more that we have benefited from these issues and these ideas kind of being brought to the forefront, as you said. So specifically on wellness, we obviously have been in this space for quite a while, and I would say consumers are kind of increasingly making the connection between what they eat and how they feel, as Anna, Rochelle, everybody has kind of alluded to. But what's been interesting in 2020 is the focus on mental health and the connection between how you feel mentally and how food can help support that. So what we've found is our content, be it on social or blogs, etc., have the most engagement when we focus there. So when we educate them on what is an adaptogen, what are the 10 most mood boosting foods, or what are food energetics, like we see just a ton of engagement, a lot of sharing. People are definitely very interested in this space for obvious reasons. And then the diversity and inclusion. So for us, it really helped us even look beyond our 4 walls, as I mentioned earlier, taking this broader view of the industry and saying, how do we support, POC-owned businesses that are in wellness? So kind of using our social channels to, again, partner with them. Whereas we've done brand partnerships in the past with brands where it's maybe complementary product lines, we kind of sought out others within the industry to kind of help give them a boost and bring more ideas to our consumers on how they could support diversity and inclusion via their dollars, right? And then also our influencers, so our partners. We took a look at the makeup of our influencers, and quite candidly, we hated what we saw. They were very homogenous, and so we quickly kind of reassessed who do we work with, kind of sought out as diverse an influencer set as we can, because we know our consumers are diverse as well, and there's a lot of value in that diversity. So the one thing I would add that we didn't hit on as much here is there's also, in the midst of this pandemic, election year, like everything going on, right? We also had a lot of climate change events and all of the fires that were occurring out west. And what we saw was, especially in the wellness world, there's been a lot of interest in sustainability and efforts that can positively affect the environment. And we've seen a renewed increase. So everything just seemed to accelerate in 2020. And so in that regards, we actually hired during this period of time, we hired a VP of sustainability, Shauna Sadowski, and she is actually leading all of our regenerative agriculture activities. So we're really looking to, again, in the wellness is that people in the planet, they're so interconnected, and how can we, through our sourcing dollars and our partnerships, help support those farming practices, because the food industry has such an impact on climate change, it can also be such a huge solve for many of those issues. How can we help support that, raise awareness with consumers, as well as inspire more farmers to take these actions?
Terrific. I covered so much, and again, and so many changes happening. Thank you all for just touching on such a broad range of issues that are really changing for consumers. We've touched on it a little bit, but I want to go a little bit deeper. Even executing branding and marketing has changed fundamentally. I think about things like sampling was a significant part of many people's plans, and now not so much. In fact, I was excited to see sampling come back to Costco, and when I walked by, they were kind of showing me the product that they'd like me to buy, but can't eat, touch, or breathe on behind plexiglass, which was not a great experience. It was all it said to me was, "It'll be back someday." That's great. But again, that's an important tactic. So let's get a little tactical. Can we address some of the things that are impacting the way you're delivering branding, or you're delivering your particular kind of piece of your plan for the year? Let's start with Susan, and then we'll go to Anna.
To jump in. So again, we've done a lot with understanding the consumer at the center, and what are those changes. Obviously sampling, yes, it's a big detriment not to have that, but how else can consumers experience our brands? But the other thing is we also looked at additional trends. So we were already big spenders in the social and digital landscape, but how has that changed, right? With the rise of e-com, which is like unprecedented, right? For like the number of people that did their first grocery order this year, has just been through the roof. So what we try to do is, how do we still get our brands to consumers with with the least amount of resistance, right? So even on our social, we've partnered with a partner called Micmac. So we're making a lot of our advertising shoppable, so that when you see something, you're like, wow, that looks great. You can click a button, it takes you to a cart. You can add it to your Walmart cart, your Amazon cart, whatever you have, whichever cart that you have, and add that right into your basket. So we've done that, and exploring some more tests and learns there. I think the other thing too is, obviously with the amount of streaming, like who hasn't binged in the last month or so, right? Everyone is binging, and so trying new ways here as well as these are new occasions or evolving occasions for us. So with Cheez-It, we partnered with a company that once you binge a show for 3 times or more, you actually can add a free box of Cheez-It to your cart, right? Because as you're binging, you should be enjoying some Cheez-It. So there's definitely new ways, and I think the other kind of the other effort of that is we always are very heavy in promotions. So if we're partnering with the college football or with March Madness, and all of that was gone. So how do we again bring that consumer experience, our brands, to them? And we're finding new ways to do that. So a quick example that I just love is over the course early in the pandemic, we learned again from a lot of consumer insight that they're looking for ways to entertain their kids. This is when schools were completely shut down. People were definitely, all in quarantined. And so we tapped into a great influencer, everyone's favorite bachelorette, Trista Sutter, and she provided a great content piece about how else you can leverage Kellogg's products in your home to entertain or educate your kids. You can do Eggo art. A lot that we are delivering new content and ways to experience our brand without having that in-person experience.
Very cool. Anna, what
Yes. Well, this was an interesting year also because we just finalized last year a brand refresh and a update of our brand strategy as a corporate brand. And so our promise is all about unlocking nature to improve the quality of life. So talk about a year where that wouldn't be so, instrumental, right? I would say this year, we have expressed our brand promise and changed the way that we convey that proposition by doing more than telling, to be honest. We've actually increased our marketing dollars this year in terms of messaging and content. But I think the big focus was really around customer centricity, to really meet the need to pivot, to drive flexibility, to address all of these needs that we were not necessarily expecting. So I would say one of the really interesting things we've done is we've promoted a lot of sampling, actually, in virtual tasting experiences with a lot of interactivity where marketing teams and technical teams at our customers have been receiving these ADM boxes with product concept prototypes that they're experiencing. And we are actually hosting a lot more customer engagements virtually and promoting that. So I think that is one of the examples. I would say the other one is we've really brought our technical teams together to talk about formulation challenges related to wellness and health. So think about addressing formulation challenges when it comes to delivering gluten-free propositions, which I'm assuming Michelle might eventually connect with, or organic solutions, or functional nutrition. Really stepping up our game on nutrition science, because with all of these enabling ingredients that Michelle was referring to, consumers and customers need to better understand, the science behind it. So looking at where ADM plays in the industry, we've invested a lot in those kinds of value add to our customers this year, while at the same time keeping our communication and our core messages that continue to shape and support our framing as a global nutrition player in the industry. What I would expect, just in closing on this one, is I think we're going to see a lot more social and digital becoming part of our marketing mix. We have a major digital transformation initiative happening in the company, and I think it's going to unlock a lot of new customer experiences that we are going to be able to enable.
Perfect. We'll absolutely look forward to that. Michelle, what's changing for you?
Yeah, again, really similar to kind of Anna, Susan, the theme. We've always focused our dollars primarily on social and digital, and now it's e-commerce as well. So prior to this, we actually luckily had hired a e-commerce director who started April 1st, and I was waiting like minute by minute for him to start, which is great. And we, prior to that, we had really just focused on Amazon, Thrive Market, the pure plays, and have since then really focused our investment on an Instacart, for example. So again, the e-commerce front is a big focus for us, as Anna alluded to, the virtual, without having the sampling in Costco, for example. What we've done is we've looked to find other retail partners where we could sample with them. So a lot of our conventional accounts have, the other e-commerce platforms or pickups where you can provide a sample there. We also have looked to retailers like Snack Nation and Snack Magic that deliver snacks to employees at home as another means for sampling. Or, we did Purple Carrot, their meal kits to provide a sample. And so kind of finding those unique ways to reach to our consumers, because we know those natural organic brands, there's often a hesitancy about taste. So that remains really important to us in finding those alternate avenues. The other thing too, what we found was I think part of the magic about our firm, our company, is that we've hired our consumers and people who really value wellness. And what we found in 2020, when it got crazy, right, and we were working super long hours and we were so focused on the consumer and delivering their wellness, that we were losing sight of our employees' wellness. So we actually took a step back and said, okay, to be a really authentic brand, and if we say we care so much about wellness, health and wellness, we have to take care of the folks within our virtual four walls. And so we put a huge emphasis on training and events. So, microaggression, white privilege. We even read a book called Positivity, which if you haven't read is great, makes a case for really how do you help change your mindset and the lens in which you look through things. And then we just put a lot more fun events in that focused on wellness. Everything from crystal healing workshops to feng shui. We just kind of made it light and fun and, focused on the whole person. So those are kind of things we're, again, trying to bring our branding and our mission to life in different ways.
Love it. Rochelle, what can you share?
Yeah, so for KeHE, social media presence has always been, very important in connecting with the industry. In regards to supporting innovation, our emerging brands program, KeHE Elevate, has been partnering with our marketing team to really highlight those participants on social media so that we can get the word out on innovation. And, just the fact that we're not slowing down, and actually quite the opposite, we're onboarding more and more brands more than ever before. As for digital, KeHE saw the need for digital trade shows, kind of before COVID hit. We actually did our first virtual show, our pilot, in the fall of 2019. So, when this pandemic hit, we were in a, pretty lucky place that we could be really nimble and, just kind of build on that solid foundation. But it does, pose a little bit of a, hardship when it comes to, innovation, because retailers are very comfortable purchasing brands that they're familiar with in a digital platform. So, we've had, to be really creative in how we've got innovation out to our retail partners. So, we've had pitch slam events, we've sent out sample boxes, we have innovation showcases. So we're really trying to, bring, they can't touch the product, they can't taste it live, they can't, look at the packaging, but we're trying to, bring them innovation in other ways. And then lastly, we talked about employee care and delivering, your brand internally. We really do take care of our people at KeHE. And so our employee safety and mental health is very important to us. So we've really stayed true to our promise to make lives better. So, we've taken many safety measures in our warehouses, and, for our field reps, we've given out essential employee bonuses. We've sent wellness packages out to our employees' homes. We realize that, what we do, we can't do it without our amazing team, and their health and safety is number one for us.
Terrific. Thanks so much for sharing that. Now, we do have a tasting panel starting in just a second, and we've covered so much great ground. I do want to take just a couple of questions from the audience. Some have come through. And Susan, I think this is focused at you. Can you share the name of the cultural insight measurement tool again that you referenced?
Yeah, absolutely. CIM is what it's called. So it stands for CIIM, which is Cultural Insight Impact Measure. And it's through the ANA, so the Association of National Advertisers. They've been leading the charge on this. And for anyone who had asked, I'm happy to share the information, but they're looking for new advertisers to be a part of this, because we're trying to build benchmarks into this measure to understand the impact of culture. So yeah, definitely it's just launched. And we're just taking advantage of it. So great something to test and learn on.
Perfect. Thanks, Susan. And actually, Anna, I think I'll direct it to you. What do you see happening in the sweetener market? Are alternative sweeteners replacing pure sugar? Is there a return to basics? Any kind of quick insight you can share on sweeteners?
Well, I think what we are mostly seeing is this broadening of the spectrum of options, right? We are all changing a little bit of the, perhaps the choices we're making every day. We're all trying to make more of the right choices without, necessarily foregoing the opportunity for permissible indulgence as well. So I think it's really about broadening the spectrum of choices. And we're going to see, I'm very optimistic about the coming years. I think we're going to see a lot of growth, continued momentum. There will be no such thing as feeling like we're in a comfort zone.
I think you're absolutely right. So I just want to thank all four of you for your incredible insights today. I'm asked a lot of what happened in the food and beverage industry in 2021. And you can tell from talking with folks like you all that we're embracing the challenge. We're pivoting as we have to pivot. And And as I told somebody recently, look out 2021, the food and beverage industry is coming for you. Like nothing's going to hold us back. We will be growing. We will be better meeting consumer needs, and we will be better delivering on, I'll say, rising consumer expectations and delivering on promises. Thank you all for, again, just sharing the amazing insights and the great stuff happening with your companies. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, Alan and team. Thank you.
Thank you.